welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 213 for the 17th of November 2012. Richard Saunders here with you from looking at the window, overcast Sydney, Australia. On this week's show, we take a sort of a relaxed view, a relaxed report from TAM in Las Vegas. Yes, folks, I kid you not, there are still TAM interviews Maynard did yet to play. Now, the ones on today's episode happened at the meet and greet, so Maynard talks to all sorts of people in a very relaxed sort of atmosphere and discovers why they go to the amazing meeting. Now, amongst the people Maynard talks to are Robert Blaskowitz and Eve Siebert, who are there to talk about skepticism and the humanities. More great memories from the amazing meeting coming up at the top of the show. And following that, it's a sort of a special Dr. Rachie Reports. Now, Dr. Rachie, together with our very own Joanne, Benhamu, two of the great reporters for the Skeptic Zone from time to time, were invited to an interesting talk, Complementary Medicine, Cure or Quackery. Now, this was held in Sydney just a few nights ago. It was put on by the Walper Jewish Hospital and also featured former Australian Skeptics President Dr. Richard Gordon, who is a general practitioner, Dr. Jason Kaplan, who is a specialist cardiologist, physician and practitioner of integrative cardiology, and Teresa Mitchell-Patterson, a naturopath. It was a very interesting talk, and I catch up with Dr. Rachie just before the talk and Joanne Benhamu, and then once again after the evening, a long chat with Dr. Rachie to get her impressions. A special Dr. Rachie Reports with Joanne Benhamu discussing their night talking about complementary medicine. But before we get into all that, I'm going to give you a short report about the recent MindBody Spirit Festival here in Sydney, or as MindBody Wallet as we call it. Now, as many of you know, I've been going to these sort of things for many, many years. It's interesting to see how they change over the years. New things come in, old things go out. Things like crystal power and aura photography and psychic readings, they're pretty common. Now, I've got some notes here from my recent adventure at MindBody Spirit. As I walked around, I was struck. I always take note of how many people are there giving medical advice, or are they? Pseudo-medical advice. Normally it involves being hooked up to various computerized machines with funny readouts, find out what's wrong with you. You're deficient in this, or you've got this problem. But they can always sell you the cure right there and then. It's very convenient. But it always strikes me that there's an awful lot of pseudo-medical advice or medical advice, one wonders, being given out by people who aren't doctors, who don't have medical qualifications. But that's a very common feature amongst these pseudo-medical practitioners are people who will test you for allergies using machines with dials and levers and all sorts of things. I watched one of them, and they seemed to have vials of homeopathic medicine next to them, and they put those through the machine somehow and tested you by putting electrodes on your skin. Yeah, it all seems pretty dodgy to me, but I was glad this year. I was glad not to see anybody doing the applied kinesiology body tricks like Power Balance used to do, and lately Shoozy and other products. So they were pretty absent, but there were still people there doing applied kinesiology, sort of in a different way, on a bed this time. And I've got other brochures here I picked up. Kinesiology is very popular. Free kinesiology course valued at $400. Attend a free weekend workshop. There's another one here from the College of Kinesiology, Australian College of Kinesiology. Mastery. Ooh, all sorts of things you can do there with kinesiology. And one guy interests me very much. He was there doing kinesiology, coupled with something I've seen before many years ago called Reset. This is where you adjust the jaw, and apparently that's going to fix up your body. I've got this guy's flyer right in front of me. Kinesiology, I'm skeptical, it says. A fascinating experience with Philip Rafferty. And it goes on and on. It's not very skeptical, I must say, this little bit of information. Now, this guy was interesting because he was holding up colour cards in front of the faces of people, then testing them using his kinesiology, his muscle testing. So needless to say, folks, I was somewhat skeptical. One of the things this year that interested me very much was the number of psychics as I walked around, as I walked past various stalls, who recognized me and stepped forward out of their stall to say, "Hello, Richard, how are you?" Which was an odd experience, and almost like they were very pleased to see me. Now, what is very interesting from my point of view is a lot of these people sort of regard me as an okay sort of skeptic. Oh, I'm one of the nice skeptics, not like those other mean skeptics. And the other thing that made me laugh inside really was that they told me that, they know that things like mind, body, spirit, they know there's dodgy people here, people who are shonks or charlatans. And I just couldn't believe that. It's interesting. And I said to one of them, well, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to clean it up? Of course, they can't. They can't go around accusing other people of being shonks or charlatans. But this is one thing that I found very interesting, and I've seen this before. There's a lot of people in the New Age industry think very little of lots of other people in the New Age industry. So they're quite willing to believe that their own magical powers, if they're an astrologer or they think they're a psychic or whatever the case may be. But quite often they are less than charitable to their fellow New Agers, regarding some of them as shonks. Very interesting. We had the normal things like spirit drawing, or someone will draw your spirit guide. Oddly enough, they normally turn out looking like Native Americans. There were people with devices that could fix your sick building syndrome and bad energies and earth rays and things like that if you buy their special devices. Another one that interests me, barefoot healing. Connect with the earth and heal. There's got to be a gag in there somewhere. Put your heel to the earth and heal. Discover earthing, a remarkably simple, safe and natural act of reducing pain, stress and insomnia. I see. So you just walk around barefoot? No, I think they're selling you something you can put on your bed. Interesting. That's a new one on me. Barefoot healing. Now, I think I will probably chase up some of these people, especially this one with the kinesiology. I think that's worth chasing up by and by. But again, it's worthwhile, anybody, it's worthwhile going to the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival, if there's one near you, walking around, picking up the brochures, collecting them for study later, and asking questions. I never get sick of it. Sometimes it's frustrating, sometimes it's fascinating. It's always worth a visit. Now it's almost time for me to start packing my bags for Melbourne. I'm flying down with Maynard. That's going to be a lot of fun. For the Australian Skeptics National Convention with James Randi, of course, DJ Grothy, Rebecca Watson, Brian Thompson, and so many great Australian skeptics. Looking forward to this so much. And don't forget, there's a special fundraising dinner, which will be on Thursday, the 29th of November. Now, seats are limited for this very intimate dinner. Only 30 tickets are available, and I think they're selling fast. It's going to be at the Royal Society of Victoria. Hey, you can have a private chat with James Randi, with DJ Grothy, with Rebecca Watson, and lots of other people. Well worth going. The fundraising dinner. More information about this dinner, if you haven't got your tickets yet, visit www.vicskeptics.wordpress.com and look for the link for special fundraising dinner. Yes, chew your steak and chew the fat with James Randi. Well, for now, I'm going to run downstairs, have some nice curry chicken and rice, and maybe a papadum, and I'll let you enjoy this week's Skeptic Zone.
Here's Maynard Spooky Action at a distance.
Well, we're here at the huge, big meet and greet that's going on as part of TAM. And who have we got here?
I am Liddell Drescher.
And what's your reason for being here?
Well, I came with my grandson and my daughter-in-law, and this is my second TAM, and I enjoy it. I'm very much a skeptic, and I really learn a lot when I come here.
Well, what was the big thing you learned at last year's conference?
Well, actually...
Stay away from Brian Dunning. That would be the first thing.
Well, that was my number one, but I really enjoyed meeting Randy, and I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed Richard Dawkins because I've read his books, and so that was one of the reasons I came. So that was very important to me.
And what are you looking forward to going and seeing the most this year? You're here, you're rip-roaring, your brain's open in a skeptical way.
Actually, I'm looking forward to the panels. I really like the panels. And then my daughter-in-law does a workshop, and I went to her workshop last year. It was wonderful, so of course I'm going again this year.
Okay, well, you enjoy yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. And of course, you can't go too far without... Oh, excuse me, I'm just interrupting you with some random radio program here, but Dr. Rachie's having a few drinks, but I'm interested in talking to you two. Why were you strangely drawn to Dr. Rachie? Is it because everyone knows she's dealing tonight?
No.
Well, she's paid by Big Pharma, my goodness me.
Yeah. No, I'm a pharmacist, so I'm probably...
Just the person I'd like to meet. So where's the Adderall?
Let's talk about it off.
Once the microphone's off. Okay, what brings you to the Skeptics meeting? Why are you here at a Skeptics meeting? And do you really even identify as one?
Yes, definitely. Most definitely, yeah.
Okay, so now, someone who's actually had some training in pharmacology, I imagine you'd really be into homeopathy.
Oh, yes, of course, yes. And flying pigs and voodoo and all that other stuff.
E-candling.
Yeah, e-candling.
Oh, yes. And well, what's the kind of woo that really gets your goat?
Well, no, ear candling. I mean, it's hot, it's sticky, it's what, you know, it's what...
Have you ever given it a go?
Oh, of course, all the time.
No, I've actually done it. And interestingly enough, it was the day before I had to see an ear, nose and throat specialist. He took one look in my ear and he went, "What the have you been doing to your ear?" And I said, "I did an ear candle." He said, "It looks like a smoky cave in there. Never do it again."
It looks like a Madame Tussauds, I guess, at the end. It's all waxy and...
Yeah, that's true,
It's lovely, yeah.
Very strange things. And so is there one particular workshop or forum you're looking forward to going to the most?
Oh, good question. Oh, wow, that's $1 million question. I mean, in all honesty, I want to see what Penn and Teller have to say. They're controversial to me, but they're interesting. They're entertainers and, you know, they're really good at what they do.
And when you say controversial, you just mean because they're outspoken or because of their libertarian politics?
Yeah, they're libertarian stuff. Because it's a lot of skepticism generally doesn't mix with politics. We tend to be, you know, more on the science side of things, and they bring the politics side into it, and it kind of rubs some people the wrong way. I think it's interesting, but not really my thing. But
yeah, look, I mean, I'm pretty much a champagne socialist, really. That's sort of the way I brand myself. And libertarian, I can see the appeal of it, but for a lot of people, it seems to be like anarchy for rich people.
Yeah, I guess I agree. I think it's fun because it's kind of really out there. I'm generally, I identify very centrist almost, so I'm boring and I sit on the fence a lot. So someone like that, or like a far right, like anarcho-socialist syndicatists are very interesting.
Yes, yeah. Look, I'm glad you were able to say that word because I couldn't.
Syndicated, yeah.
Anarcho-syndicalist.
There you go. I'll just nod and say, what he said.
Oh, well, look, have a great TAM and you have some fun. Are you going to be giving Penn and Teller a bit of stick?
Define stick.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Spooky action here for you?
Look, we're currently experiencing some spooky action right now, and I've met the only man who I've seen so far that hasn't got a drink in his hand. You got some. Look, hang on. Let me guess. Crumb chicken and watermelon.
Yes.
The dinner of skeptic champions.
You're terrific in calling the shots here.
Well, in fact, you are a Skeptic Zone listener.
I am indeed.
Now, what's your history of Skeptic Zone listening, and how did you find a skeptical podcast from Australia, of all things?
You know, I think I heard about it on the SGU. I tuned in, and it's been great because I get to find how Australia is like America and how it's just a little bit different, too.
Yeah.
And so I listen every week. I enjoy it.
Now, in what way is the Skeptic Zone different as a skeptic podcast? Is there a particular Australian bent, sense of humour, character that comes through that you could describe as someone who's not an Australian?
You know, that's a tough one for me. You
kind of know what you like, but you can't put it in words.
Well, you know, I like hearing a different perspective on skeptical issues, and I think you guys are doing a great job in some respects that we're not doing here. And I'd like to see some of the things you guys are doing applied over here in America.
Okay. Look, I was just talking to some people earlier there, and they had some interesting comments about the politics of Penn and Teller and the libertarianism and how that could be potentially controversial at a skeptics event. Have you got an opinion on that at all, sir?
Well, I've heard Penn's politics, and I got to say that I'm not in agreement with all of his politics.
Okay. Oh, well, that's good.
That's fine.
I think as a libertarian, he would respect your right to disagree with him.
Well, of course, and that's what's great about people. Everybody has their own opinion, but we can agree to disagree.
And what is the one forum and workshop you would really want to rock while you're here this weekend?
Good question.
Okay.
I don't have them all in my mind yet. I look by the hour to see what's coming up next.
Look, on behalf of the 3 or 4 other listeners to the Skeptic Zone, we'd like to thank you for being here.
4 is all?
Yeah, well, I think that makes half a dozen now, so thank you very much for listening, and we enjoy your input.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, Maynard.
Well, as we said, we're in the huge party room, and it's just like a scene from Animal House. If you could imagine the party scene, it's just like that with a whole bunch of skeptics over there. Randy's in the corner, going off. He's going nuts. Who have we got here?
My name is Sergio.
And where are you from?
We're from Washington, D.C.
Oh. And why are you here at a skeptics conference? What really rings your bell about skepticism?
Well, I mean, why am I a skeptic? I mean, I'm not sure how to answer that question. It's just like I identify myself with the same kind of thinking that people I'm sure here have, and I started listening to skeptical podcasts a few years ago.
And what's your favorite one?
Well, I think I would have to choose The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe as my favorite one. I listen to many, and sometimes too many, that like more than I have time to listen for. But
do you have a long commute in the morning, so you got time to listen on the bus or in the car?
Well, fortunately and unfortunately, no. Like I don't. So fortunately, because that would be awful. But like that means that I don't have a lot of time to be listening in the car for podcasts. But
and what kind of woo makes you really angry?
A lot of it actually. But one particular one would be, I guess, claims related to medicine, because I feel that it's really unethical and sad that people are like deliberately taking advantage of other people's, like, by giving them false hope, like, and taking just their money. And I mean, I don't know, it really upsets me, like, when I hear
so how do you go at work then when someone comes in with astrology, or they go, oh, you've got to detoxify your body and that kind of thing? Do you keep your mouth shut, or you have to say something?
I usually have to say something, and sometimes that gets me into some trouble, but like...
Yeah, it's a fine line in the work environment, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Like, because I don't want to get into trouble, like, and being accused of, I don't know, not being intolerant or not respecting their beliefs. And that's also something that sometimes bothers me, that sometimes I feel that by just using the, I don't know, like the diversity card, like they kind of expect people to just get a free pass of any kind of claim that in some cases could be very harmful. For example, like, going back to the health claims, like, for example, some people that don't vaccinate their kids, like they could tell you, well, they're my kids, I decide what I do to them. But I mean, in some way, if you try to get into that, like, you could be accused that into getting to something that's not your business. But on the other hand, it's like if you're not doing anything, you know that the kids are going to be harmed by the parents' beliefs. So,
well, being in the US, I imagine that is it almost a First Amendment kind of thing, or not?
Well, I guess
it's not free speech, but it's almost like you should have the right to be stupid. Is that what they're saying?
I guess that's what they're saying, but there should be a line where, like, when they're causing some kind of harm to others. I mean, it's fine if you want to believe whatever kind of claim that you want related to medicine, but if you're putting the life of others at risk, not only yours, like, I think something should be done about it, and not just like say that you have to be respectful of any kind of claim, whether that puts someone in danger or not. Like.
And what are you looking forward to the most this weekend? What are you going to be attending?
Well, it's our first time actually here at TAM, and personally, I'm very excited. I've been looking forward to coming to TAM for 4 years now, and finally, we made it, and we got the old workshop pass, and so we're attending all the workshops that we can, and all the talks. And
I better let you go now, because you've got to get some sleep, because it's a big day tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm already resigned to not getting any sleep until Monday that we go back home. But
well, have a good time and watch out for Brian Dunning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Look, whenever I'm in a room and there's someone wearing a fez with a tassel, I'm always strangely attracted. Good evening, sir. What's your name?
Aaron Kerwin.
And what's the go with the fez? Is it a Doctor Who thing, or you've just got this thing for smoking hookers?
Oh, it's the smoking hookers, to be sure.
And why are you here? What are you into, sir?
Well, I've always been a skeptic since I was around 13 or so, and my friend Reed Esau turned me on to this convention, and this is my 8th one now.
Yeah. Now, as someone like myself who is sort of much more recent to the whole skeptical movement, to see James Randi come on stage and to see the reaction from the audience is always really interesting. It's like, wow, because, James Randi is a relatively new figure to me, but to everyone in the room, he's a much-loved person.
Oh, absolutely. He's a luminary, I would say, in this sort of thing. He's up there with Dawkins and Hitchens and all of that.
You aren't a magician as well, are you? Because that would fit in with the whole Tommy Cooper fez thing.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, and so why is that your icon? It's fairly unforgettable.
Well, it's one of those things when you're in a large group of people. There's 1,200 people here today. It's hard to recognize someone from across the room, so wearing a fez, it's the way to do it.
That's for sure. Now, have you got a website or a group that you run that we could get into? You seem to me like a guy who's got an agenda.
No, I'm actually kind of freeform.
No agenda show, hey? Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I wouldn't have expected that at a Skeptics conference.
Someone has to do it.
I have a Bloody Mary and a vodka and orange, thank you. And of course, if you want to find out about anything, hello, my name's Maynard from the Skeptic Zone podcast. You come to the bar. How are you, sir?
Good to meet you again. We just talked a few minutes ago.
Oh, I'm very sorry. I'm going round and round and round. And what is a skeptical drink? Is there such a thing?
I wish there was.
Yeah.
I think, if anything, it's an oxymoron. I think the more you drink, the less skeptical you become. So I think by the end, we'll be talking about unicorns and homeopathy here.
Well, I think there's something in that for all of us. Thank you. Want a quick chat while we're here?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, look, I've been trying to avoid the Australian skeptics because basically they tip very poorly and they usually don't shout here in America. Although I've got to say, it's been a long time since drinks have been this cheap.
Absolutely. It's wonderful to be here with the cheap American drinks.
Yeah.
And the cheap awful beer too.
Yeah, well, I'm not really a beer guy, but a mix, it's amazingly how cheap. A couple of wines and some mixed drinks and $8.
If you like, mate, I'll go buy you a drink right now. Oh, the bar's closed. Oh, what a shame.
That's a terrible thing. Now, what do you look at? I mean, you're part of the skeptical establishment, so to speak. You're basically the old guard. How do you find this year's TAM?
Well, this is actually the first time I've been to TAM.
Right. You've been barred for a couple of years.
I have been barred, actually. They've heard about me, and I had to change my name to get in here, actually, so change my identity.
Is there a different thrust with the American skeptics and as compared to us? I mean, I've been talking to people, and they've been saying they love the Australian perspective on skepticism, and I know things are a bit more intense here. They love their lawyers here even more than we do. I seem to be getting a lot of stuff about alternative medicine here, which, although it is a large part of what goes on in Australia, we like to be a lot more frivolous sometimes.
We do like it. I think that's part of the humour of Australians, actually. We don't take everything seriously. That's often, some people have actually levelled that as criticism against the Australians. People that say, oh, you're too frivolous about this, you're taking too much levity in this. I say, well, that's what it needs doing in many cases, that we actually sort of want people to be made fun of in some cases, not necessarily the anti-vax people like that, but often the other very, very silly claims which are made, which you sort of just say, don't take it that seriously.
And by the way, what star sign are you?
Right, yes, I am.
Look, it's late night at the moment. In fact, I'm using the late night microphone and I've got my late night voice on. We have Bob, hello.
Hello.
And Eve, hello.
Hi.
Now, what sort of skeptics are you? They will come in many different colours and flavours. What brought yourself to this conference about science and reason?
Well, we're here in order to promote something that's not science. We're here to promote the humanities. We're going to be talking on Saturday about the role that critical thinking plays in the humanities. So using pseudo-history to teach really good history and to let people know that we are in the humanities using the same critical tools that people are using in the sciences, but to a different end.
So would an example be, and correct me if I'm wrong, would it be ancient alien theory promoting interest in archaeology?
Absolutely. There was very recently one of the episodes of the popular History Channel show Ancient Aliens.
Well, I'm a big fan. Go the Von Daniken.
Yeah. One of the shows was about how Leonardo da Vinci may have been influenced by aliens. And, it kind of diminishes the achievements of the man. And there are lots of appeals to ignorance that are
they
left
were drawing
unanswered.
a very long bow. There was no description from him of being taken up in anything. And they were just saying, they were taking some things he said about God or something, that was inspiration.
And take it out of context. And, and they're making the same logical fallacies that alt-med people are making. But they're outside of their area of expertise, and we want to show that there are areas of expertise in the humanities where people are working. I do literature.
Eve, what's your field, and how would you explain it?
Well, I'm actually a medievalist, I'm interested when ancient aliens talk about the Norse beliefs and thinking that that's aliens.
Now, I saw that Ancient Alien episode as well, too. They were drawing a longbow between burning them in a boat and a spaceship.
Yeah.
They were drawing a line between their funeral rites and a spaceship.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty clear that it is, in fact, just a ship that goes on the sea, or you bury it because your friend is dead.
But it's such a wild show. But have you seen interest in people that would never normally be interested in that kind of stuff because of shows like this?
Not necessarily, but I've seen a lot of people say, I didn't know that you could study this stuff seriously. And that's really kind of nice because we can introduce them to all sorts of tools, critical tools, and then actually like library tools and databases that where really good information lives, and so that's very rewarding.
Look, I remember there's a podcast called Mysterious Universe in Australia. It's quite a well-known one, very popular here in America. And I think they said jokingly one day that archaeology is the lowest rung of the science ladder, or something of that effect. Now, do you think that there's anything to that? Because, a lot of people might say dermatology is.
Well, oh boy.
I don't know. If you get any lower than or the lowest form of science, then you get to the humanities. I think it's too close to being the humanities for some people.
And that's kind of the problem, and that's sort of what we want to correct is that we are doing real work, we have real expertise, and we really know our stuff. And one day you will bow before us, you freaking scientists. No.
And please tell us how we can find out more, what website, and how we can engage you guys in discussions when you get all feisty like that. People want to write to you.
Oh, absolutely. We're at skepticalhumanities.com, where we write about these topics.
Okay. And what's going to be the new ones? What's on the new horizon? We've seen the ancient alien ones. Is there a new anomaly that people can use to... that shipwreck is pretty spooky that's down there.
Yeah. One that's become surprisingly popular recently is a resurgence of Shakespeare deniers.
Yeah.
That people who think that the Earl of Oxford wrote Shakespeare, we're actually pretty confident that Shakespeare was in fact that Shakespeare, and not somebody writing under another name.
Or possibly a shape-shifting, time-traveling alien who also wrote the Canterbury Tales and Beowulf. That's my theory.
Eve, I love you, Eve. You're my kind of skeptic.
There you go.
I gave in.
Yeah, very cool.
Thanks, guys.
Well, thanks for...
We'll see you online.
Absolutely.
In a world where the truth is a matter of opinion, where messages are received from beyond the grave, and reason is sidelined for magical thinking, only three men stand between the truth and a postmodernist abyss.
What date is it? 7th, 8th? 7th, 8th?
This is impressive.
Are these artist impressions?
They're not. They're photographs of Chinese lanterns.
It's not.
We are not well researched.
Yeah, because
good God, we're full.
We don't discuss cryptozoology on this show very often because we don't know anything about it.
That's true. That is true. The price gets lower and lower and lower, and then he hits a ceiling.
It's a ceiling from the room below.
Skeptics with a K from the Merseyside Skeptic Society. Find us on iTunes, or don't.
Now it's time for Dr. Rachie Reports with Dr. Rachael Dunlop.
Well, I know. So here we are in Bondi Junction, and this is a night put on by the Walper Jewish Hospital. In fact, it's called Q&A, debating the hot topics, complementary medicine, cure or quackery, and taking the side for science, and noms is Dr. Rachie.
I noticed, Dr. Richard, you didn't say taking a side for cure or quackery. It's a loaded sort of topic, isn't it? Because it's cure or quackery.
You're right, So tonight, Rachel, it's sort of like an open forum. There's going to be a crowd of people. I'm going to be in the audience. You and former President of Australian Skeptics, Dr. Richard Gordon, will be presenting science and that sort of thinking. And we've got some people from the alternative industry, so to speak, coming along to put the other point of view, I guess.
Yeah, we've got a cardiologist, Dr. Jason Kaplan. He's a physician and a practitioner of integrative cardiology, which I think will be really interesting because I'm not really sure what that pertains to. And Teresa Mitchell-Patterson, who's a naturopath, I think, who actually teaches or works out of the U Clinic, which in fact I think is owned by Dr. Karen Phelps.
So how did you come to be speaking here tonight? Did somebody hear what you were doing, or
somebody just probably saw me complaining about something on the internet and emailed me and said, would you please be a part of this? So in fact I think Iran was asked to do it as well, but as some people would know, by the time this goes out, he's up north for the total eclipse of the sun.
We're going to see some of it here tomorrow. In Sydney we get a partial eclipse.
Oh right, yeah, we get a 60-something%, I think.
Yeah,
so I don't know how they found me, but I think it's going to be quite interesting. We've just had a little bit of a debrief with Julie McCrossan about the topics we're going to cover, and it's going to be a structure a bit like a forum, really, where the audience asks questions of us and we answer questions. So it's not just it's a Q&A format, if you like, a bit like the Q&A program that Australians would be aware of. So I think it'll be quite interactive, and the audience is probably going to be quite of an older persuasion, and some of them actually probably are probably using a lot of complementary medicines. Well, I mean, let's face it, 47% of Australians apparently do. So it's quite likely that half of them will be using them. So I'm hoping to get some interesting questions about evidence and how to pick or how to make a decision about what is evidence-based versus what is not. So I'm going to be talking about things like places to find reliable evidence. So I'd say the bottom of that spectrum would be a current affair, or like the TV news. And at the top of that would be the Cochrane collaboration, which is the meta-analyses of scientific evidence. And then in between that, other things that you can do, and just providing some tips about that. So I don't really know how it's going to go because we're relying on the audience to ask questions.
That's interesting. Now, since the Skeptic Zone audience heard from you last, which has been a little while now, you've been very busy, haven't you? Not only that, you've been off to the United States, and you stayed at the South Point.
Yeah, I did. I went to a conference in St. George, which is in the bottom, it's in the southwest of Utah, about 40 minutes in from Arizona. And we based ourselves at the South Point in Nevada for the first week because, hey, why not?
Why not?
And,
you know it.
I know it, and it's cheap.
And it has crabby legs.
And do you know what I found out, Richard?
What?
Do you know what I found out? What? On Thursday nights, they have a seafood buffet in the buffet.
Yeah.
Where they have crabby legs. No, seriously. Piles and piles of crabby legs and prawnies.
Yeah.
And I think there was maybe oysters, I can't remember exactly what else, and that's all included in the buffet. And if you have your South Point card, it's only like $10. Can you imagine when I found that out? I was so excited.
Just this year, I think I arrived on the Friday. So I would have missed that.
Right. Well, it's Thursday. I think it's Thursday night is seafood night in the buffet.
In 2013.
And seriously, you go in there and one of the Bain Marie things is transformed into this stack of crabby legs. It's amazing.
And how's your new job going?
It's very busy and very, very interesting and very time-consuming, which is why I've been otherwise occupied. from being on the zone lately.
Yeah, that's all right. We know that our reporters get very busy in their personal lives. Good news. I'm glad that you're busy and doing good things. And I think our table here at the Chinese restaurant is getting up. This is not the normal think tank Chinese restaurant. We're in a completely different part of Sydney.
We're in a different part of Sydney tonight.
But I guess the word is out and we'll make our way to your talk tonight.
Yay.
So we're in the room now, and it's yet to begin, but I'm so happy to see Joanne Benhamu in the audience. Hi, Joe.
Can I take his phone and hit him over the head with it?
Yes, you can. You can.
I've already had to do this, Joe. It's your turn now.
Joe, it's been a little while since the Skeptic Zone audience has caught up with you. How have you been going?
I'm excellent. I've just started a new job.
So I hear. How's that?
It's great. I've only been there a few days, but I'm working in clinical trials, so it's a place where my skeptical hat is very, very important, and I'm really looking forward to it. So it's a wonderful new scientific world for me.
You're still in the same hospital, I heard, yeah? And that's great. It's a big advancement for you and a whole new fascinating area.
Absolutely. No, I'm really looking forward to it. It's really a chance to actually put into practice some of the things that I've learned as a casual skeptic and now can bring into my professional world in, greater ways. And especially, from a nursing point of view, it's a wonderful area for nurses to be involved because we really are, at the forefront of being involved in collecting data, rigorous research and involved with the population who are very, very vulnerable to alternative therapies as well. So it's a good sort of point to be kind of looking at how these things affect our patients, but at the same time being involved in the treatments which they're testing and hopefully providing great benefits to them. So
good to hear, and good to see you here tonight. And we were just discussing over dinner earlier before we were recording that we should do a think tank soon. We
are long overdue.
Let's
for a
line
think
one up
tank.
before.
Why haven't we done? We have to do one.
Because everyone's busy and some people go overseas. You know how it is.
Oh right, yeah. Aren't you a gold flyer now or something?
Well, as a matter of fact. As a matter of fact. Well, it's all over and we find ourselves in the train station here at Bondi Junction waiting to catch our train home. Dr. Rachie, I think you did really well. You and Dr. Gordon were fabulous tonight. How do you think it went?
I think it went okay. I think one of the problems I had with the format was that there were a panel of 4 people up the front and then we had an MC and a roving microphone. So it was more like a Q&A sort of thing, but it meant that whoever was on the panel who was addressed could put out information, and whether that's misinformation or science-based information, and then it went unchallenged. So on the panel was myself, an integrative cardiologist, a naturopath and a GP, that's Richard Gordon. And when, for example, the naturopath said that homeopathy worked because the British Medical Journal had an article that said it worked, which all of us know is not the case, that went unchallenged for a long time until it came back to us, the rest of us on the panel, being able to say, actually, that's not true.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, that information had got out to people who maybe had, that was seeding the ideas. So I think it's dangerous to do that sort of format when we're talking about medical information and health information. When we're just having a discussion about opinion-based stuff, fine, but evidence-based stuff, I don't think it's a good idea.
I thought it was interesting that the naturopath started off with the argument from antiquity.
I know. Oh, my gosh.
4,000 years old or something like this.
This is, she said 6,000 years old and then she said 4,000 years old. Yeah. And, there was stuff bouncing out of the room like a pinball machine. There was a guy saying it's DNA-based, the Santa Fe Institute Nobel Prize winners. Like one guy. Energy medicine, quantum physics, DNA, Santa Fe Institute Nobel Prize winners, hair analysis, drugs.
That was the guy in the audience, right? Yeah.
And then at the end of that comment, he said, and I've written a book, and this is my website, and I'm an integrative practitioner. And everyone, even I could see from the stage, everyone was going, like it's just a big ad for your clinic.
Yeah.
But there was certainly a lot of...
Anti-aging, wasn't he? He said he was in the anti-aging
Do you know what? His website, I can't remember what it is, but I've been there before. And I think, I'd have to double check, I think it's about this activate your DNA stuff. How you can activate it to 8 strands or 7 strands or something like that. Yeah. It's that kind of nonsense, I think. But that was what I objected to, was that those logical fallacies could just get thrown out there and weren't challenged immediately. And I did speak to the MC at the end about that, and she said, she finds that if it's just a panel with 4 people and 4 mics, the audience doesn't get enough time to talk. And I disagree with that to an extent, because you still do get time, but it's important when you're talking about people saying homeopathy works that someone can come straight in and say, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But I do think the whole evening was a good use of your time. I certainly learned some interesting things. You and Dr. Gordon did very well. And we had a few other people in the audience who are on our side. Joanne Benhamu did very well.
Joe was fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't realise this, but I thought it was just going to be 4 people on the panel, but what happened was a few people had sort of been chosen from the audience to contribute to the debate as well. So we had Joe, who did the first sort of talk about RCTs and clinical trials and what that means in terms of evidence. And then we had a guy who's actually a doctor, a physician who specialises in allergies and immunity, immunogenic foods and stuff.
He was very good.
He was really good, because I'll tell you about the meme in a moment. I know you're waiting to hear about this, Richard.
I am.
But then also on the other side we had a medical practitioner who went to India to do volunteer work as a doctor and then found himself, in a way, I suppose, and then went back to study Ayurvedic medicine. And
I know little about that.
Honestly, I don't have a lot of time for it.
Yeah.
I think it's probably just above homeopathy for me.
Yeah. It's basically relax and feel good?
Well, no, I mean, it does involve supplements and herbal remedies.
Okay.
And I mean, and some listeners may know that several years ago there was a big issue with Ayurvedic supplements coming into Australia that were contaminated with lead and heavy metals.
Yes, I remember that, yes.
Yeah, so, hom, relax, but also get lead poisoning. He was from the ProCam side, and then we had a chiropractor who was on the ProCam side.
Very much so, wasn't it?
Who, I would just like to point out, was asked a question from the audience, which I thought was really quite amusing from my perspective. The question was, you guys are pretty much just glorified masseurs, because I went to one and all I got was a masseur and he clicked his fingers and said, you're better. And this chiropractor said that he's done a 5-year master's degree. That is wrong. They do 3 years of undergraduate training and 2 years of a master's degree. So that is misleading to say that you have 5 years of master's education, because they have 2 years, not 5.
And I asked him point blank, does he treat diseases? And he said no.
Yeah, I mean, Richard Gordon made a really good point about, because the whole point, I guess, of the discussion eventually led around to...
Here comes our train.
Oh, okay, maybe we have to continue this on the train.
Here it comes.
Actually, this will sound really good on the podcast.
It probably will, folks. There's a Sydney train coming to collect us, to take us back to our respective suburbs. And here it comes, right next to us on the platform, as it happens.
This is called Theatre of the Mind.
It is.
Not for no good reason.
It's stopping? Oh, this is exciting, Dr. Rachie.
I think everyone has to get off first, don't they? And then we get
Doors are opening. Okay. Maybe we can walk down the platform a little bit. It sounds like an old-fashioned steam train, doesn't it?
It does. We're actually at Hogwarts right now, and we're about to get on the train. We're going through platform 13 and a quarter.
Departs in 6 minutes, so we'll have time to finish the interview, I think. Might as well just jump onto this carriage here.
6 minutes, I've got 8 to say.
Let's make our way downstairs here in this train. Oh, this is exciting podcasting. And
we'll like last week, we could really be in the mud caves in
it's just like
California, but...
Just put that chair across now. This isn't the mud caves, this is a Sydney train. And we were just saying...
Yeah, Richard Gordon made the point that somebody asked him... Because the discussion really came around to integrative medicine and whether we need to move towards integrative medicine because chronic disease is a problem, therefore prevention needs to occur. And somebody made the point that Western doctors such as Richard Gordon don't... they just treat the symptoms. They don't treat the...
This is a mantra of the alternative medicine, isn't it?
I mean, I'm sure it's a logical fallacy of some description, but Richard made the point, which I think is really pertinent, which was people don't come to see him until they're sick.
Yeah.
You know, they don't turn up until they're sick. So... And
even if they... Beforehand, he'll give them good advice.
Yeah, and
they don't follow it.
No, because and I mean, this is well known, and the cardiologist kind of annoyed me in this context because he said, you know, he used the analogy that he's at the bottom of a cliff when the ambulance has arrived and someone's fallen off the cliff, they've already had the heart attack. And he was saying, we don't know that people have heart problems before they have a heart attack. And no, we don't, because we don't. We simply don't have ways of figuring that out. We have some ultrasound now that we can take of people's veins in their arms. Yeah. We can do invasive techniques to look at their arteries around their heart, but we don't have a biomarker to say you've got plaques in your arteries and you're at danger of having a heart attack or a stroke. We don't have a biomarker to say you're going to have a plaque rupture that's going to lodge in your brain and cause you to die. We don't have that. And integrative medicine isn't going to come up with that because they're not doing enough research, And so, he really enforced, the point that Richard was making was that people don't do anything about that. And even when they do come and say, I'm sick, it's often too late. And then they still don't change their lifestyle.
Yes.
And that research is out there. That people don't recognise themselves. They don't understand relative risk. That's not just for medicine and health. It's for a lot of things. And they don't recognise that is an issue for them. It's always going to happen to somebody else, not to you. That's a human nature thing. Yeah. That's not, integrative medicine is better than Western medicine. I'm not going to buy that.
You heard it here first. Dr. Rachie, passionate as ever. It's good to see you again, Dr. Rachie. And I think we were saying before, but we'll do a think tank pretty soon. It's been a while.
We should do a think tank. But just before we sign off, I wanted to finish up with the sort of the meme that started a little bit.
Oh, yes.
During the presentation tonight. So I was asked for my definition of complementary medicine, and I said, for controversial purposes and for the sake of discussion, I will say that. Yeah, so it's the famous Tim Mitchell quote that alternative medicine that's been proven to work is called medicine, right? And then later on in the discussion, the cardiologist was asked if there was some particular type of alternative medicine that he would point blank not recommend to his patients. Yeah. And he could not answer that question.
He didn't answer it.
So I shot my hand up and I said, without a doubt, homeopathy. I said, it doesn't work. It's been proven that it's just baseless. It breaks all the rules of science, biology, physics, everything. And I roughly explained how it works. And then it doesn't work, or is, purported to work. And then someone got up at the back and got a bit cranky with me. And then the MC said, so what you're saying is that...
And then Stelvin Edgewood, that's followed by King's Cross, Marketplace, Town Hall, Central Redfern, Sydenham, Wallow Creek, Rockdale, Cobra Hurstville, Penshurst, Mortdale, Janelli, and then all stations to Cronulla.
Well, it's not a bus announcement, but it's the train announcement.
Is that a first?
That's a first.
Yeah, so the MC picked up on that idea and she called it bunkum. She said, so you're saying it... She said, so you're saying it's bunkum?
Yeah.
And a few people got their knickers in a knot about that. But anyway, then later on down the track, Richard Gordon backed me up and he said, I also think it's bunkum. And then there was the guy who was from USyd, who's the allergy specialist, he got up and said, I also think it's bunkum. So at the end of the proceedings, the MC said to me, maybe you shouldn't use words like bunkum, maybe that's a bit mean. And I said, well, that was your word, and it doesn't change the fact that homeopathy is bunkum. So I think at least people walked away from tonight with the idea in their head that homeopathy is bunkum. They might not be exactly sure why or how, but they will remember that.
You heard it here first. Thank you, Dr. Rachel.
Thank you, Richard. It was fun, actually. We should do this more often.
Doors closing. Please stand clear.
Dr. Rachael Dunlop is one of Australia's foremost media commentators in matters concerning so-called alternative medicine. She has appeared on national radio and national television. Dr. Rachie is available for interviews, and you can contact her at rachel@skepticzone.tv.
I'm Eugenie Scott, Executive Director of the National Center for Science Education in Oakland, California. We defend and support the teaching of evolution and climate change when it comes under attack for religious and political reasons. We help teachers, parents, school boards, and other citizens defend good science in the schools. Come visit us at ncsc.com and on YouTube and Facebook, and let us know if science comes under attack in your community. We're here to help.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Now, I just had a phone call from Maynard during the Skeptic Zone. How about that? And he's suggested to me that we should have a little think tank meetup in Melbourne on the night of the 28th of November, which is the day that Maynard and I arrive in Melbourne. Sounds good to me. Maybe we can find a nice restaurant somewhere and have a little sort of extra special meet-up and chat and maybe a think tank or something like that. I'll keep you posted, or you can follow my Twitter at Skeptic Zone for more information. So if you're in Melbourne on the 28th of November, well, let's see if we can get together and have a good old time with Maynard and some friends. Let's see if we can do that. But until next week's show, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to The Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.